Good morning everyone, and today we're checking out a brand new video from Popcross Studios, an Archon Demon family meeting. This is Summer's Beast Part 5, Story in Speedpaint. Let's check it out.
Standing with an Archon Demon in the midst of all my interdimensional allies was a bizarre experience, but one that was going to go on a while longer after I asked, why is one of the other Archons trying to invade my world when you already have established interest and residency in it? Not that I'd be alright with either of you doing what you will with it, but do you Archons not have any kind of code of honor between you?
I mean,
we have some agreements between...
Well, they are demons, so I guess that kind of makes sense.
Between us, yes. Rules we follow, but sometimes some of us will also choose to make up new ones, on the spot apparently. The whole problem with Shyferimov started off at our last meeting. Can't go into all the details obviously, but here's the gist of it. Toralei then started into the tale, admittedly telling us more than I thought she'd be willing to. She and the 5 other surviving Archons met up in a world recently ravaged by Eldrorok, the Archon of Horror.
Whoa.
Psycho Perdelict started the meeting, being the most talkative.
So, anyone want to go over the minutes from the last meeting before we start? Who brought the bagels, by the way?
Okay, I'm sorry. I know I've said before in the past, but I actually love that Archon Demon. And it's just the voice. I don't know why.
Eldrorok replied,
"There is no need to drag this out, Psycho Perdelict. Does anyone have anything relevant to report? I, for one, have observed the Reaper in motion against my demons from a great distance lately, and it is clear her skills are progressing swiftly. If she isn't already, it is likely she'll surpass Barisia's skill levels very soon.
Oh, damn.
In the least, though, it seems no more of us have been killed like that fool, Suvastarif."
Come on, it's not my fault. How was I supposed to know they have tech that could help trap me so easily?
Suvastarif said, apparently able to speak to them from the non-physical realm the Archons hailed from.
Would you just make another multiversal orb already and find someone to make me a new body?
Oh, hold on. So the Archon Demons are kind of like the big squid things from StarCraft 2. The Zelnaga. They don't have a physical form, but they can take a physical form, while the real form remains in the homeland. There you go, now that's actually kind of nice. I may have already said that in the past. If I have, let me know down in the comments below, and call me an idiot if you wish.
My entire group of allies tensed hearing this query. Toralei clearly noticed. What, had none of you thought of that as an option for us? Keith then spoke up and asked, "Are you suggesting that you Archons made the OG multiversal orb?" Oh my god, sometimes I forget how far behind you all are. Yes, we made the original multiversal orb, and we likely could make another, but it's not something you have to worry about now. We ain't gonna risk doing that and having someone betray us with it. Not again. Before we could ask what that meant, she went on to tell how Shyferimov...
I mean, it's kind of obvious that along with them when they created the original one, someone took it and used it against them.
Early in that meeting, had been boasting about how many worlds she'd taken.
I've ended my 52nd universe, and my demons are ravaging another 12 as we speak. Even Eldrorok has not ended as many worlds as me. No disrespect intended, Elder.
He apparently said nothing, but Psycho responded,
You know, it's not a race, Sai. How can you enjoy your meal if you're not even taking the time to chew and savor the flavors?
She sneered at him.
He's right, though.
Enough, Psycho, you know what I'm getting at. I should be allowed to invade M308.
I hadn't even noticed that our youngest members were present, but as soon as Toralei mentioned that dimension, Jake Tajin looked about ready to interrupt, and Sterling put a firm hand on his shoulder to stop him. They exchanged a brief look, and I wasn't sure what it meant, but oddly, Jake then looked with a concerned gaze towards Astra. Him seeming to point a degree of concern towards Astra was a touch odd, as Jake had never been the biggest fan of hers. She had a tendency to intentionally get on his nerves. I tried to subtly look at Astra's expression, but couldn't quite read it at the angle I was at. M308 meant nothing to me, but it seemed clear Jake knew of it. For the time being, I remained focused on the story, as Toralei explained Psycho's response.
A deal is a deal is a deal, sister. You find any proof of what became of our old treacherous friend, and the dimension is yours. Outside of that, nobody touches it. Besides, there are plenty of other fantasy worlds for you to frolic around in. It's not like Fantarel is doing much with them anyway.
All eyes on the meeting then fell onto Toralei. who was still known by her fellow Archons as Fantarel.
What say you and your little pigeon, Fantarel? Gotten around to any new worlds lately? I'm all for moving slow, but last I checked you were still playing Townie in T905. You know, my offer still stands to relieve the overseer of that world of his powers. Would be a fun little challenge, as he seems more emotionally stable than Arava was. But then again, most people are. She was almost too easy.
Dresden interrupted the tale. What does that mean? What has become of Arava? Toralei looked around at the group with an
And here we go, they're finally gonna learn the news.
Eager smirk, realizing we hadn't yet heard. So none of you have noticed after all. The so-called Fear herself ain't an overseer no more. She was becoming more of a burden than a useful ally, so Psychoperdalic took her overseer abilities away. Didn't take all her powers, but last any of us saw of her, she was curled up in a bowl on a small little nothing island back in her dimension. There was an unusual hush that fell over the group. The majority of us had a strong dislike, or even outright hatred of Fear herself, as she was the one who'd given physical form to the Archon demons and caused all our current problems. Yet this news about her didn't seem to be striking as inherently good. Eventually, though,
I'm sorry, but if I was part of this group, I would have been like, hey, I'm gonna go, I got to take care of something, be right back. Spins chairs, he runs out the room. 2 hours later, guys, say hello to our newest teammate, Fear herself. People would immediately be just calling me an idiot, saying, what the hell do you think you're doing, and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, hey, so you can be useful.
Broke the silence with a question I assumed Dresden would follow with, but after hearing what had become of Arava, he seemed particularly lost in thought. So, did Psychoperdalic then give himself the Overseer abilities he took from Fear? Well, no, you see... should I really be telling you this? Whatever. We Archons have a little agreement that none of us can take the abilities of an Overseer for ourselves, because the combination of our abilities with that of an Overseer can let us lock even each other out of a given dimension. And in case it wasn't obvious, all of us are a bit touchy about being locked out of places, after being kept from taking physical form in the multiverse for so many millennia. I instinctively spoke up. So is that why you want my Overseer abilities then? To keep the other Archons out of my world while you rule over it? She didn't seem pleased to be answering the question, but said, that is certainly one of the many benefits, yes. Anyway, I told Psycho I wasn't interested in his assistance, but that just got Cypheramov even more irritated.
If you we're not going to do anything with that dimension, then maybe it's time you back off and let me have my way with it instead.
Toralei explained that apparently my dimension, T905, was a very desirable one, both for the vast array of incredible creatures within it, and for being a world where the Overseer, myself, was a member of the main group threatening to slay the Archons. While Cypheramov was an Archon whose technological demon infection and her own aesthetic were very on the theme of a science fiction-like realm, she apparently enjoyed most taking over worlds like mine, lacking any advanced technology and filled with mythical beasts and magic and cities that, in other worlds, would be considered medieval in nature. Don't take it out on me that you're not allowed to have it M308. T905 is mine, and that's the end of it. You're lucky I let you go after D107. You know that was one I had my eye on from the other side.
Oh,
that dimension did ring a bell. I had been there before myself, as dragons from that realm had temporarily come to my own. I was also quite sure Vasilia had gone there quite recently. Toralei continued. Plus I hear you got scared out of that world pretty quick. There's almost none of your demons even left in there, are there? So why don't you focus on finishing off one world before you come and complain to me about how I'm handling another?
What is that accent? I swear I know it, but I can't pinpoint it.
Cypheramov then reached her 4 mechanical tentacles at Toralei and snatched her limbs in them. Toralei immediately whistled, and her demonic bird familiar, apparently called Hunter, cawed out violently. Its sound waves took physical form as red rings moving around in an orb-like shape that got larger and larger until a 100-foot flame erupted within it, and from that emerged one of Toralei's 5 beast demon generals, a flaming monstrosity called Hellskorot. It thrust its head down at Cypheramov and shrieked a wave of smoldering smoky air around her. Sai released her grip, but still had a wide grin as she said,
Well, if you feel like you were missing out, how about I give you a little taste of what D107 had to offer?
Cypheramov's mechanical tentacles clanged together behind her and slowly separated, opening a green portal that grew and grew. Soon it was big enough that a 70-foot-tall spiked dinosaur-like beast stomped through with Cypheramov's demon virus having killed and taken over it. This was a Tarrasque, one of the most vicious and durable beasts of that realm, made all the more powerful by Cypheramov's infection.
How about this, sister? If my demon can slay yours, then T905 becomes open season for us all.
Well, the sister's going at it. Alright, now show us the big ones. Show us
Hydra
the
let out a
Titans!
thundering laugh.
Yes! Let them fight!
Psycho crossed both sets of his arms and said,
I think that sounds like a fair little wager to me. Oh, noble leader, your thoughts?
Eldrorok stared at Toralei for a moment, then replied,
This big thing looked like it's some kind of just gigantic death claw. Oh, you know what? Is that actually what it's a reference to?
Fantarel has
Probably
claimed
not.
T905, but if she agrees to the terms, then so be it.
Toralei waited a moment, considering that she could simply walk away and say no. Romillisect apparently chimed in next, saying,
What's wrong, Rel? Don't think your big, strong demon can handle size beast?
Despite being well aware that a Tarrasque was largely immune to fire, the main ability of Fantarel's own beast, she agreed all the same, eager to put Cypheramov in her place.
Alright,
no.
Hellscorot, show Cypheramov here what a real monster can do.
Dresden interrupted again. Are you really so immature that you could be goaded into something so blatantly foolish? The only thing on the
Apparently,
line
yes.
had you said no was your pride.
Maybe, but also if I won, I'd keep the rest of them off me back for a while. Besides, I'm known in the lot of them for making the best demon monsters of all of us. Save for Eldrorok, of course. You have seen nothing real from him yet. He can make stuff so horrifying you'd have to avert your gaze.
Then he
Ooh,
suddenly
like a full
chimed in.
Medusa?
What, you mean like just Champ and I wouldn't be able to look at him? Some brief chuckles from the group cut through the tension of the tale, but then she continued on to say how the battle began. Hellscorot charged on its 4 burly legs while breathing a beam of molten rock and flames into the Tarrasque's face. A metal coating protected its eyes though, and it just stood in place as if nothing were happening, not even needing to breathe, just waiting for the flame beast to get closer. When it was in range, Hellscorot spun around and swung the gargantuan blade at the end of its tail at the Tarrasque. It still looked
damn.
as though the Tarrasque may do nothing, but just before being struck, it darted its head to the side and snatched the coming blade in its jaw. The force barely even pushed the Tarrasque to the side, and it smashed the blade down, sticking it deep into the ground. In the second it took for Hellscorot to try and pull free its blade, the Tarrasque then chomped into the demon.
Someone actually just thought of, with the way this dinosaur looks, plus the metallic nature of its demonic virus master, or whatever the hell. Well, it looks like a metal Greymon. It's Metal Greymon!
Monster's hind leg lifted into the air and slammed it down onto its back, quaking the ground for miles. It then instantly bit into Hellscorot's stomach and shook furiously as if trying to tear out its guts. Hellscorot then swung its blade again. Once more the Tarrasque caught it in its jaw, but Hellscorot then smashed both its hind legs into the beast's head. It released its bite and was nearly thrown off its feet, but just stumbled back as Hellscorot rolled over and started breathing more molten flames around the Tarrasque's feet, melting all the ground around it. Its legs sunk into the earth, making it more difficult to move. Unfortunately, as Hellscorot crouched and leapt at its prey, the Tarrasque unexpectedly breathed a plume of black and green mist, instantly dimming the molten glow of Hellscorot. Toralei wasn't sure what exactly this was, though she felt a wave of freezing air rush by her from the battle. She suddenly realized that Cypheramov may have been scheming for this exact sort of scenario, and made sure to have beasts that could counter Toralei's. This frigid air ability wasn't natural to the Tarrasque. It must have come from the demonic upgrades of Cypheramov's infection.
Of course.
Still, Toralei was undeterred. She commanded her disoriented demon to dodge right as the Tarrasque lumbered through the molten rock and thrust its jaw towards Hellscorot. Toralei's demon did as instructed, rolling through the molten ground and flinging lava into the air, as well as warming its body back up. It then leapt upwards, spun, and sliced its tail right at the Tarrasque's back. This time, the beast was not fast enough to catch the blade. It struck its spiked spine and didn't cut very deep, but did slam the beast down farther into the lava beneath. As it tried to rise, Hellscorot leapt onto its back and stomped it farther into the ground, then breathing more lava onto it. The Tarrasque raised its head and once more breathed the frigid mist, but Hellscarot kicked its head so that it breathed the mist onto its own side, instantly hardening all the molten rock on it. It was stuck into the ground even more, but tried swinging its own tail back at Hellscarot.
You fool!
Luckily, Toralai's beast saw this coming, leapt upwards, and then swung its own tail at the Tarrasque's. It managed to swing hard enough to slice off half of the Tarrasque's own back limb. The monster didn't even shriek out in pain, though. It just thrust upwards, breaking through the solidified rock, and then it turned to Hellscarot again. This time...
Well, it is already zombified, so of course it can't feel pain.
...with a green ball of energy building in its mouth. Hellscarot leapt aside and rolled to get away from whatever was coming, but the Tarrasque fired a thin, concentrated beam from its mouth that made massive explosions in the rock wherever it struck, which then, halfway through pluming into mushroom-like clouds, solidified into green ice.
Oh,
Hellscarot
that's
rolled
epic.
away from the beam, but the Tarrasque could turn its head much faster than Hellscarot could get away. It struck the flaming beast in the side, and the green plumes exploded around it, then solidified, freezing half Hellscarot's body. It used its free legs to leap up and slam its frozen side into the ground, cracking away most of the ice, but far from enough to allow it full movement. The Tarrasque charged over. Hellscarot tried to shoot another beam of lava, but Cypheramov's beast stomped a foot down onto Hellscarot's head to slam it into the ground, then chomped right into the beast's neck, clearly breaking through flesh. Hellscarot groaned and writhed, trying to get free. It swung its bladed tail at the Tarrasque and it hit, but there was too much ice on the blade to let it slice anything. The Tarrasque held tight, and another green beam started building up in its mouth, ready to shoot right through Hellscarot into its molten core. Finally, Toralai cried out, "Stop, stop, we surrender!" All the Archons looked at her curiously. Cypheramov raised her hand and the Tarrasque's beam vanished, though it still clutched Hellscarot's neck. Psychoperdalic then said,
Really, Rel, you know you could always make more demon generals, but I suppose it's cute how attached to yours you've become. So be it.
Yeah,
the battle is
the Hawks.
Cypheramov's, and she or whoever else are perfectly free to go and roam about T905.
The Tarrasque finally released Hellscarot, and stood as still as a statue, waiting for more orders. Cypheramov walked past Toralai.
Thanks, sis. By the way, if you get in my way in that realm, next time your little pets won't be shown any mercy.
Oh,
All
crap.
the Archons then went on their ways, except Eldrorok, who came up to Toralai after everyone else had left, and stared at her uncomfortably for a moment,
Well, I guess in Part 6 we gotta be ready for some of them to die.
before saying,
That was a grave miscalculation, and you know it.
he too then vanished.
So now, here we are. Cypheramov has entered your world, and that's bad news for the both of us. The longer we leave her be, the more creatures she'll infect, and with all the most legendary beasts having woken up lately, we'd best be getting her done before she manages to infect too many of them. I obviously can't be seen helping you, but I can track Cypheramov easily. Then tells you where she is, let you know a few of her weaknesses, and you can all scare her off.
Alexis stepped forward. We're not just going to scare her off. You may have a
Kill
deal
her?
with Tayrin, but the other Archons aren't a part of that. We're going after Cypheramov, and we're going to kill her.
Yeah!
Oh, look at a big scary Reaper. I could have sworn our intel on you said that you didn't kill nobody with a soul. Ain't nobody told you that, well, most of the demons we make don't have them. All us Archons do.
Whatever you have aren't souls, and clearly if Suvastrif is still talking to you all, she's not in hell. The reason I don't kill bad people
Yep.
is because I want them to have a second chance to redeem themselves to not be sent to hell for all eternity. Since that clearly doesn't happen when I
Come
kill
on
you,
now.
all you Archons are fair game to me.
Well, I suppose we can arrange our morals however we want, can't we?
Kate suddenly pushed through the crowd and pointed her
Oh.
knife at Toralai threateningly. You and your so-called family have killed, what, trillions of people? So maybe you shouldn't be lecturing anyone on morals, demon. Toralai rolled her eyes.
Fine, whatever, kill her.
right.
Just don't let her know I'm helping you, alright? If she gets away and tells the other Archons that there's even a hint of me working with yous, or my deal with Tayrin, then I'm dead.
That itself is
Oh,
an
no.
interesting piece of
Come on now.
information. Confirmation that the Archons could kill each other, meaning Alexis and her Reaper abilities may not be the only real threat to them. We started planning how we'd go about attacking Cypheramov, but I noticed that, as the group started to confer, Jake, Anna, and Sterling pulled Astra aside. Curious enough to miss part of the planning, I went over to see what they were discussing. I reached them as Jake was whispering, "She wasn't just the overseer of that world, she was made the overseer by the Archons." I quickly asked,
Oh?
"Who did? What's this about?" The group of them glanced back to ensure that they were far enough from the others to not be heard by Toralai, but moved even farther away still. Sterling then said, "A student from Jake's school is from that dimension that Toralei talked about, M308, and he's been telling Jake and the other students a legend from his world that involves Astra's mom. Something Astra didn't even know about until Jake and Anna came and started telling us about it." Yes, it's been so nice to know that—
Right, the mytholethal stories.
that my mother apparently still has seemingly infinite secrets she's kept from me. Not that I was a big fan of her before, but she keeps finding new ways to reveal that she's always been just the worst. Sterling continued. "Jake just learned more of the story and came here to tell us. Apparently, it's a more important story than we even thought before. If we had to guess, based on what Jake has just learned, the old treacherous friend that Toralei was referring to was Tarsa. We don't know everything that went down yet, but it sounds like she tricked the Archons into making the multiversal orb for her way back before she was even the overseer of Dresden's dimension, and whatever her end of this deal was while she was the overseer of M308, she flaked out on. I had heard some tales of Astra's mother before, hearing that she was quite treacherous, but assumed she was no longer a threat, given Astra had stripped her of all her abilities. I then asked,
This is something.
"So they may be seeking information on Tarsa, but what do we intend to do with that information?" Sterling shrugged. "I honestly have no idea yet, but if we play our cards right, I bet it could come in really handy at some point. So for now, we're keeping it all under wraps. Nobody says anything until we know more. Got it?" I nodded, as did Jake, Anna, and Astra. While I was still distraught that another Archon had come to my world, it seemed there were many things stacking in our favor. We had a clear advantage over Cypheramov in her not knowing that we were privy to her invasion, and likely had information the Archons wanted in this situation with Tarsa. Plus, I was seeing more clear evidence that Toralei could be a huge asset to us going forward, possibly even an ally, seeing as how she was already willing to betray one of the other Archons.
That is
My
thankful.
hopes were slowly and steadily rising. That is, until I returned to my world and saw the first monster of my realm, Cypheramov, had infected.
Please don't let it be Violet. Please don't let it be Violet. Please don't let it be Violet, for crying out loud. Please. It's gonna be Violet, isn't it?
This poster is now available on the Popcross Studios Teespring store, linked in the description. And so things continue to keep coming together. If you want a pretty thorough explanation of how Tarsa ties in with the Archons, you might want to tune in to Mytholethal Episode 7 when that comes out. Of course, that'll still be after my vacation, which I'm about to go on. Though if you haven't watched Mytholethal yet, these two are obviously tying in together a little bit. You might want to go back to the beginning of that series, or the beginning of The Summoner's Beast, if you're, for some reason, jumping in partway through right now. There will be 2 uploads as usual next week, including a Best of Benny Sharp episode, which I cracked up editing that video. Thanks for all the suggestions for it, everybody. But I will not be in the comment sections or anything. The meditation retreat I'm going on is week-long, and I disconnect entirely, so I won't be turning on notifications or going on YouTube or emails or anything like that. But I hope you all have a great week, and beside that, that's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of positive or inspiring note. And the thought I want to leave people with today is a quote I heard this week from a man named Billy Carson, who said, "You have to stop getting mad when other people don't support you. Most people won't even support themselves."
Ooh,
obviously, it can be frustrating if people we care about don't support our dreams, but at the end of the day, there is only one person that you genuinely need to support you, and that's you. If you believe in what you're doing and who you want to become, then no matter how many other people believe in you, you can still make it to where you're trying to go.
He's right.
I hope that's inspiring. I love you all, and I'll talk to you all when I get back from my vacation. Goodbye.
Alright everyone, that's going to be the end of today's video, and I hope you all enjoyed. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Link to the original will be in the description below, and I'll see all of y'all folks next time when we flick back on. Till then, this is Fox, signing out. Peace.